Welcome back to the Broncast. I'm your host, Donnie Whiteman.
I'm John Melton, and our sponsor for today's episode is Tom's Off-Road. Tom's Off-Road has every part that you need to fully restore your Bronco.
In this episode, we have a very special guest, someone that traveled so far away.
So far. It's pretty crazy how far this guy has come. Got Ryan from Alaska Early Broncos. I actually ran into Ryan at the Bronco Super Celebration in Colorado. And I got to drive his Bronco, spoiler alert, but also we said, hey, let's get Ryan on the phone, hear about this incredible trip that he's taking, just hear about his adventures.
Ryan's sitting in one of his Broncos right now, and you're on your way back from another Supercell, is that right?
I am. I just got back from Colorado Supercell.
Supercell West, and okay, so you drove this time. So Supercell East, you flew.
Yes.
And now Supercell West, you actually drove down from Alaska. How many days did it, not hours, how many days did it take you to drive down to Supercell West?
It took 7 days driving 600 miles a day.
Wow.
In an early Bronco.
In an early Bronco with bias ply tires.
I want to talk a little bit about your Bronco, and also, spoiler alert, I too was at Super Celebration West, and I knew that we were going to have this call with Ryan. So I was like, hey, let me drive your Bronco and like kind of get a feel for what this 600 mile a day for 7 days was like. What did you drive from Alaska to Colorado?
So I drove a 1974 red Explorer with 37-inch bias ply tires and no AC.
But I mean, Alaska, like it was probably cool up there, right?
Yeah, it was about 47 degrees when I left home.
How many miles was the drive?
From my house to Supercell Fairgrounds was just under 3,900 miles.
Wow. 3,900 miles in a Bronco. That is amazing. How many miles have you put on it, like at this point?
Just under 4,700.
I wanted to ask you, I remember that you had posted a military Bronco that you found. I guess you find them all over Alaska and then pull them out and bring them back to life?
I tried to. That one, the guy was asking a little more than I could afford, but Drew Peroni happened to be up there at the same time, so he drug it back home for somebody.
What is so special about the Bronco?
I started out, my first car was a Mustang. I had Jeeps, and then I saw this one on Craigslist, and it was basically a four-wheel drive Mustang. You get a V8, it sounds good, and it just looks cool.
Well, if you look at like a 65, 66 Mustang, they share a lot of design features on the front end and the style line on the side. They actually do look like siblings.
When was the point that you bought that first Bronco? How many years ago was that?
I bought this one in 2008.
How many have you had since then?
Probably about a dozen.
A dozen, but I bet you found a lot more homes for old Broncos all over the place.
What's that Bronco memory that it's like, this is one that I hope I never forget?
Well, I mean, there's a lot because I take the family out a lot, but this road trip has definitely been up there. Spending this much time in this thing and hoping that it's going to make it and hope I know how to fix whatever decides to break.
For the people who aren't familiar with the Alaskan territory, what does wheeling look like for you? Like when you go out and hit the trail, like you're hitting a totally different type of trail than we see in Tennessee, or even you're in Utah right now. Like, what's it like wheeling in Alaska?
It's pretty similar to Colorado, except there's a lot more mud packed in between the rocks, and generally there's a lot of swamp.
I was going to ask if you like always had a winch, or sometimes you just get stuck and got to hike back.
There's been a couple of times where I've almost had to hike back, but luckily I had a friend that was able to come get me out of the situation I put myself in.
Do you even do snow wheeling in the winter, or is it like You don't even attempt trails because there's so much snow.
I do a little bit of snow wheeling. Usually I'll go out to get a Christmas tree and drive it up the mountain to go get it. Generally, the trails have turned to ice. So ice racing screws work really well.
How many trails are near you, like close by you?
I'll say within a half hour's drive, probably close to a dozen.
I don't know if I could ever live in Alaska, but I want to visit you and hit some trails.
Come on up.
Do you always keep your roof on?
No, I used to have a soft top and I put the hard top on just for this road trip. Normally during the summertime, I'll roll the soft top back just to enjoy the sunshine and stuff.
Now, you talked about 37s. Have you done anything to the axles? Do you have lockers? What's your engine transmission?
Yeah, it's got lockers front and rear, 513 gears, 4-wheel disc brakes, transmission's AOD, and it's got a stock Dana 20 that I just rebuilt before I left, and it's got a fuel-injected 351 Windsor.
Are you super happy with that AOD, and how many RPMs are you turning on the highway?
I'm pretty happy with it. I would like to do the 4R70 first and second gear swap just to get a lower first and second gear. Highway speed, 60, 65. I'm pulling about 1,800 to 2,000 RPM.
AOD has the fourth gear overdrive, but it's not electronic, right? Yeah.
Yeah, non-electronic.
Favorite upgrade that you've done to your Bronco?
I will say the fuel injection is really nice. So I'm running the factory Ford injection off of a Mustang Fox body.
On this trip, what's your favorite tool been?
9/16 wrench has been pretty useful.
And you did recently upgrade to the Tom's Off-Road premium seats, right?
Yes, I did. That was a huge improvement over the stock seats.
It makes such a huge difference, especially when you're driving your Bronco for more than a few minutes.
Yeah, I can drive for a couple hours and I start to get a little uncomfortable, but just hop out, put some gas in it, hop back in, and I'm good for a couple more hours. So
you drove from Alaska 4,000 miles to Colorado, 7 days in an early Bronco. What's the craziest thing that happened? Because you've got to have some stories about this amazing drive.
About halfway through Canada, I thought that I had a bear outside my tent one night, and I woke up and I saw bison tracks around it. But when I went to use the facilities, there was a bear in the woods chomping at me. So I wasn't completely crazy.
The views that you've seen driving through Canada and even Colorado and Utah, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, this has been a great trip. Lots of scenery that honestly I didn't think I'd ever see.
It's pretty funny. He's sitting at the side of the road talking to us, letting his truck cool down and his cell phone cool down and his body cool down. And you're going to hop back in and go for a few more hours, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it's about 4:30 right now. So I'll probably get another 4 hours of driving in and see where I end up.
Have you been able to see some people that you've heard about in the Bronco community but never met before?
Yeah, I got to meet Jay Patterson. That was pretty cool. He was pretty excited that I drove down. Just a bunch of other Bronco people off the forums and stuff that I talked to for years but never seen face to face. So
I always think about, the Bronco community, and it's, if you're on, classicbroncos.com or if you're on Instagram, you've met these people, you've seen these people on the internet, and never really came face to face with them. And then you do something like this and it's like you get to run into people. Jay is from Virginia or East Coast, super great guy, wheels all the time. And it's cool. When the community can kind of come together like that. Like I said earlier, I did actually get to drive his Bronco. You're not going to believe it felt like my Bronco. And I don't know if I could drive my Bronco
4,000
miles. This thing is the Alaska Bronco. I know there's other Alaska Broncos, but this is if you ever talk about Alaska, this is the Bronco. Oh, yeah. Okay, so tell me what you've got in this. And just to reiterate, you drove this from where in Alaska?
Wasilla, Alaska.
And how many days?
6 days on the road.
Ooh, We're in Buena Vista, Colorado. So tell me about this thing. What have you got? What's the engine, transmission?
So it's a roller cam 351 stock. It's got Mustang EFI and transmission's AOD.
Okay,
I will warn you, it shifts really hard.
nice.
Um,
Like a Bronco should.
yep.
Yep.
It's got a stock Dana 20 and not stock, but stock housing 9-inch and 44.
Not stock?
Not stock. So both axles have Yukon chromoly axles in them.
Wow.
It's 513 gears, Detroit in the rear, and a Yukon locker in the front.
For people who don't know what a Detroit locker is.
It's basically, it's locked all the time if you're putting gas to it. So
Yeah.
both tires are turning.
Lift tires.
It's got a 4.5-inch Wild Horse lift. Tires are 37-inch bias ply Swampers.
So you float all over.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not too bad.
Any body lift?
It's got a 2-inch body lift.
Okay. All right. I was going to say it sits a little higher than
Yeah.
just a suspension lift. Oh yeah. I don't know. I'm driving this just thinking about driving it from Alaska.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys can hear a little bit of what's going on in here and, but it's got a nice little shake to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's got you can feel the Swampers.
Yep.
And it honestly drives like my Bronco. The steering has this bit of play and then it catches real quick.
Yeah.
Which is just like my Bronco. Okay, how off is your speedometer?
It is 5 miles an hour off.
Okay,
So-
I should slow down.
Yeah.
But honestly, it goes, it cruises.
Yeah.
What speed are you driving most of the time?
So most of the time I was at 60.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, pretty good speed. I usually am at 63
okay.
to 67.
65 is pushing it. Feels
Yeah.
like it's going to come apart.
Yep.
So-
Yep. 73 is when my steering wheel starts shaking. So it's
Okay.
I've hit 73. Time to slow down. I love, it feels like a Bronco. It drives like a Bronco. And most guys won't drive it 20 miles.
Yeah.
And I love that you've driven it now 4,000 miles.
Yep.
And you're going to keep going. Brakes work good.
Oh, yeah. It's got 4-wheel disc brakes,
Oh, yeah.
T-bird calipers in the front, and
Oh,
Explorer
nice.
disc in the rear.
Explorer disc.
Yes.
What is that?
So the Ford Explorer,
Oh, yeah.
the disc brake setup will bolt onto a 74 and 75 medium-duty axle.
What?
Yes.
That is incredible knowledge.
So
I've
you gotta
never
get-
heard that before.
You have to get new rotors
Okay.
because the bolt pattern's wrong.
Yeah.
But it all bolts on.
Now, do you still have the emergency brake cable?
Yes. So Wild Horses sells a kit.
Oh.
So I'm not
There you
sure
go.
if anybody else does, but
I'll have to figure that one out.
yeah.
Does it hit the shock mount?
No. So I did move my shock mounts because
Oh.
I also put in different uppers.
Okay.
So I moved them on the frame.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And this is a red Explorer package, which was a
Oh.
1-year only package. So,
Really?
yes.
Oh, that's super rare.
That
Did
was-
it have the red
Oh, I still
upholstery?
have them.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Houndstooth?
Yep.
Wow. That's
Yep.
cool.
Yeah.
And then the Igloo cooler.
Yes.
I love it.
I found it locally for $10
No
on
way.
Marketplace. Yes.
No way.
Yep.
I paid $150 for mine.
That's yeah. When I saw it, I called the lady right away, and
Yeah.
I drove. It was about a half an hour drive to go get it.
Oh,
So,
that's amazing. Well, I love it, man. Thank you for letting me drive it.
yeah, no problem.
And thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
Even though as of today, you haven't
Well,
been on the podcast.
yeah.
But you will be on the podcast. And you'll have gone to many more places.
Yes.
It'll be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.